Today, we are talking about autophagy. So, we're going to talk about how strength training can initiate autophagy and just how that relates to longevity. Simply put, I want to talk firstly, though, about three foundational pillars that we think of a lot here at Fifth. And like today's whole concept, I'm really hoping just to give you a deep dive down our thought process when we're thinking about health. And specifically today, it'll be around the training methodology of strength training. And I just want to give people an insight into what we're thinking in the background as to multiple reasons why we're using it. And today will be around autophagy. So I'm hoping people get a better understanding of potentially some of the complexities in the thought that we have, but then be able to apply it so that they have a different lens on their own strength training. And that's really important to us here at Fifth. We need people to get a better understanding and a better education around all different facets of health, because then that can become your guiding star around decisions that you make. And I find with a lot of the health industry and a lot of people, because they don't have that, it's really difficult to know myth from fact and what's good advice and what's not good advice, because they really don't have the base level understanding, which I totally get because it's not easy to get that base level understanding. So hopefully that's what people can take away from today. It's kind of three foundational pillars that I was just saying when it comes to how we coach and what we think about in terms of ageless living. The first one would be cellular health and longevity. This umbrella focuses on optimizing the function and the renewal of cells. It should support longevity and prevent just kind of age-related decline. This is things like what we're covering today: autophagy, which is cellular cleanup and renewal; mitochondrial health, everything to do with energy production and anything to do with oxidative stress reduction; and hormesis and stress adaptation. So anything to do with building resiliency through controlled stresses, which is kind of the key word there. Number two is our hormonal and metabolic regulation. So we're talking anything that's focuses on maintaining balanced hormones or a balanced hormonal environment to maintain homeostasis and optimize your metabolism, your energy levels, and recovery. Things like the stress cascade. We're talking HPA axis management, so hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals, which is your stress axis, management around that, controlling your cortisol to prevent things like burnout and overall body inflammation. Hormonal balance. We're thinking insulin, we're thinking cortisol, we're thinking any of the androgen hormones, anything to do with regulating metabolism and energy. This also covers things like blood sugar regulation and insulin sensitivity. This is going to help you with supporting stable energy and weight management, and anything to do with circadian rhythms, which is anything optimizing sleep and hormonal cycles. The third one is inflammation and gut health. So this purely focuses on reducing chronic inflammation and improving your digestive health. And this is going to have an overarching benefit to your overall health, but it's going to help with immune function, it's going to help with nutrient absorption, it's going to have real systemic benefits to your health, and the two above that we just talked about. Obviously, inflammation, both acute and chronic, your gut health and your digestion, and your microbiome balance, and lastly, your recovery and detoxification pathways. When we're considering a well-balanced health program, we're thinking of all of those things and trying to improve those areas of someone's health. Simply put, today though, we're just going to cover the autophagy activation portion of that, because all of those are quite in-depth, and we'll do them at a later time so people can, again, just get an understanding of the mechanisms, the physiology, potentially the biochemistry, and then a really simple, tangible takeaway, because they don't need to know the in-depth physiology and biochemistry so that they can recite it, but I would love them to have the context on what they're doing and why based on some of that. And that's really important for us. It allows two things to happen. They can either start to implement their own journey, which is kind of where we want to get everyone to, more tools for their tool belt or their health and wellness tool belt, or they can go to another community, another facility, another business, and crassly put, either figure out that the person who's selling them is full of shit, or whether they're actually worth investing in and being a part of their community. And that just requires knowledge. Otherwise, you're at the the nature of how good the sales and marketing may be of the individual or business. So as we age, our cells accumulate waste and damage, and that just kind of can speed up the aging process. It definitely drains your energy, and it contributes to inflammation and chronic health issues. Autophagy is your body's natural, let's call it your cellular recycling process. Helps clear out all the damaged cells and removes toxins, and it removes damage and sort of dysfunctional or cellular components that aren't working optimally anymore. And this helps prevent them from accumulating and contributing to other age-related diseases. And it also makes room for the new sort of healthy, thriving cells, hopefully. So think of it as your body's internal cleanup crew. So they're kind of crucial for maintaining your optimal health and longevity. I think the fear that we have is like most people, like they're weighed down by years of, let's call it, internal clutter. That feeling when you do a spring clean in your house, or you move house and you get rid of a whole bunch of stuff that you're like, what is this still doing here? I haven't used that for years. That's the feeling you get when you have a lot of autophagy in your body. It's a deep clean that should help you feel energized, help you feel youthful, and have you avoiding the dreaded feeling of wear and tear. So why should people even care about this? Well, if your goal is healthy aging, and by that I mean not just living longer, but living better. That's the goal. It's more energy, less fatigue. It's better metabolic health. It's a stronger immunity, and it's maintaining sharp focus and brain health. That's why people care or should care about their autophagy. So how do we activate this autophagy for healthy aging? Well, there's kind of 4 mechanisms. You've got nutrient-dense, low-inflammatory foods. You've got prioritizing sleep and stress management. You've got potentially some time-restricted eating. And we've got the one that we're going to talk about today, strength training and movement. So exercise actually signals the body, or can signal the body when done in the correct fashion, to recycle old cells and build new, stronger cells. Now let's dive into kind of how that happens and the mechanisms of which autophagy can do that. First, let's look at the long-term health. As I said before, it kind of removes damaged organelles. We're thinking things like damaged mitochondria. And for those who don't know, mitochondria is your big engine for energy in your body. It ensures that these stay healthy and functional. So, it's going to help maintain energy production. It's going to help with anything that's sort of mitochondrial related diseases. So we're thinking anything that's like neurodegeneration and some metabolic disorders. That's kind of all in that mitochondrial space. It's going to do things like reduce chronic inflammation. And we know inflammation is one of the long-term key metrics for actually reducing your health quality, mainly because of the cascade that it has when it's sort of chronic in the body. It's going to help. You've got a thing called misfolded proteins. So these are just proteins that are no longer really serving you very well. And the accumulation of these kind of can just disrupt your function. This is kind of where you get sort of neurodegenerate diseases, or like a portion of them, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's. And it does play a role in sort of cognitive decline to some capacity. A couple of things that we're really keen on. It's going to enhance your metabolic efficiency. Now, what does that even mean? Well, it's going to improve your metabolic function. It's going to help you regulate your nutrients better and your use of energy better. That is all really important. So you're a really efficient energy user, which just enhances your metabolism. And you're going to get hormonal regulation. Autophagy interacts with a whole bunch of hormonal pathways. I did mention insulin just before, and that hormones play a really, really, really key role in maintaining metabolic balance. And if you can get your hormones balanced and in harmony, it really makes your health far easier, rather than sort of 2 steps forward, 1 step back when they're sort of dysfunctional or out of whack. Now, there's 4 key mechanisms that are specifically related to strength and resistance training that actually activate the autophagy pathways. You've got mechanical tension, you've got neuromuscular engagement, You've got a thing called metabolic stress, and you've got a thing called oxygen demand and energy turnover. I want to deep dive into those just a little bit because you need to understand what the four do before we can then overlay any form of training advice to get you there. And this will help you understand why we're sort of saying certain things and programming in certain ways. It's to get some of this to be done in your program, which is really important. So number one, mechanical tension. It stimulates like the autophagy process by when we train and we're doing things, you get little micro tears in your muscle fibers when you've got a bit of mechanical tension in there. There's a couple of pathways for, all the, quote unquote health science nerds out there. There'll be mTOR and AMPK. These pathways do a bunch of things. They do muscle building or growth. They do energy deficits, and they'll clear out some damaged proteins. This enhances your muscular recovery, which is really important, and it helps get rid of the accumulation of all your cellular, like your dysfunctional cellular components. The reason you want that is because that can lead to inflammation, and that'll impair your muscle function. So that's really important. What do we mean by mechanical tension? So what I want is sort of a slow portion of the movement, slow and controlled. That's why we're always just laboring on tempo here. What we want to do is normally 4 seconds on the lowering portion or the eccentric phase of the movement. And this is just going to put more stress on the muscle fibers. It's that controlled descent which actually creates more microscopic damage. So that is why we're slow, controlled tempo. Outside of safety and better posture and better body awareness, and you can actually get to understand how you're moving better, it will also help with more mechanical tension, which is really important. So that slow eccentric, more mechanical stress on the muscle fibers, we get more damage, then this is going to trigger more cellular repair in the process, including autophagy. So why does this matter, especially if you're 35, 40 and above? Well, it's going to help maintain muscular function by replacing old damaged proteins, and that's really important. Your body wants to get rid of more of your muscle as you age, not keep it, purely because it's so metabolically active. It also helps prevent dysfunctional muscle fibers, and they actually have a really big role in things like stiffness and reduced mobility. So if you're finding it hard to move around and you're stiff and tight and achy, this can be part of the problem. And it's also going to help support that lean muscle mass retention, which again, we were just talking about, gives you a higher metabolism, more physical independence. It helps keep the weight off a lot easier, and it's going to help you function and feel a lot better. Number two, we're talking neuromuscular engagement. So how does this happen? Stimulates a signaling pathway. It's a CAMK pathway for anybody that wants to know. So when nerves fire and contract, this pathway is activated, and then it triggers a process that enhances, again, more mitochondrial health and some protein turnover. This is really important because it leads to neuromuscular efficiency, which is going to help reduce the amount of misfolded proteins, which is going to do a really good job of improving coordination and reaction time, which diminishes as we age. So it's going to help also when you get that neuromuscular efficiency, you're thinking brain into nervous system, and then that will go to the corresponding ligament, tendon, muscle, whatever needs to happen on the periphery of your body. They play a really important role in postural alignment, obviously muscle activation, but also things like stabilization, which all tends to be reduced as we age. I'll leave it there. So why would you care later in life? Well, as I said, it helps prevent dysfunctional neuromuscular joints, which that will help reduce your risk of falling or poor control of movement. It's going to help improve your muscle contraction. So whether you're aging, it's going to give you more strength and injury prevention. If you're an athlete, it's going to help you utilize more of the strength that you already have, which is really important. And it also helps support any cognitive integration. So that's really important. It's going to help you maintain agile and have good reaction speed. The third one is something called metabolic stress. So when you undergo prolonged tension in the muscles with a limited oxygen, you actually signal to the cells to remove damaged mitochondria. A lot of talk about mitochondria purely because they're so much a part of the energy system of the body. And it's this accumulation that you get. And we all know what that feeling is when you've been training or you're deep into a movement and you start to feel the burn. That burn is the lactate that you're starting to sort of accumulate. It's that metabolite as you're training that actually tells your body, like, we should initiate some cellular repair to improve whatever's happening here. And it's this process that helps you to improve your efficiency and your endurance. It's this combination of tempo, potentially a pause in there, that actually helps generate these metabolic byproducts. So why would we care? Again, well, it's really important because it helps clear out underperforming mitochondria again. It's going to help improve your energy production and reduce fatigue. It also enhances your metabolic flexibility, which is a bit of a buzzword, but it's going to actually, that process helps you to prevent insulin resistance and weight gain, which is unfortunately prevalent in most Western cultures. Fourth one is oxygen demand and energy turnover. This slow tempo, and potentially if you're an advanced trainer, the isometric holds that you're doing throughout movements helps trigger, again, more mitochondrial autophagy. This just has a massive effect on supporting the overall energy systems and your cellular detox. The reason we care about the mitochondria so much is the more it improves and the more efficient it gets, it just enhances your daily energy levels, which is really important, and your workout performance. It means you can do more with less. You get more mitochondrial density, which just means your body has more of them to do the job, which just means it takes less energy to do the same amount of work within the body, or less stress, I should say, to do the same amount of work. That also means it'll support things like heart function and lung function, which is crucial for anything to do with endurance athletes. But to be fair, it's kind of just crucial for good life and good health quality to do anything that you want to do, especially if it's physical. Gardening, moving house, going for walks, maybe it's hiking, maybe there's a sport you like to play, keeping up with grandkids. All of those things require a pretty reasonable level of cardiovascular health and respiratory health, all of which happens through this process. So what are my tips? It's pretty simple. I break it into two different segments. I got beginner tips that will cover everything that we've just covered. Number one, beginner tips is master your foundational movements. We're talking things like, some squats and a hinge pattern like a deadlift, some form of press movement. They could be body weight. It won't matter. That'll be enough resistance at the moment to get what we're talking about here. That'll help get you some mechanical tension in the body to trigger your autophagy. I would strictly stay with full body workouts. Full body workouts, there's a whole bunch of things that they do. They decrease their overall load on the body just because the whole body's doing it. And it means you get more variety and frequency, which especially early on give much better results than an inconsistent training regimen. So full body means even if you miss a day, you're going to get 2 sessions of full body in if you're doing 3 workouts a week, let's say. This will stimulate that mTOR pathway, the AMPK energy regulation pathway, and then you're going to start to turn over some of those cells and replace old ones with newer, stronger versions of it. By far, probably the best piece of advice would be use slow, controlled movements. We're talking 2 to 3 to 4 seconds on that lowering portion of any movement. That is going to give you the most, you've heard the phrase time under tension, which is going to enhance the cellular signaling within that movement. That's what we're trying to do outside of sort of the safety, body awareness, feeling confident with the movement piece. We're trying to give the body time to actually learn what we're trying to do in the movement, and that is through the cellular signaling. And it'll also help with all that mitochondrial health and autophagy. So, advanced things that I would do, there's a couple. Starting at, now that we've done the lowering phase, we might extend that eccentric phase. Instead of it being sort of 2, 3, 4 seconds, you could make it longer. You could do 4 seconds, you could do 5 seconds, you could do 6 seconds, and so on. I wouldn't go much more than sort of 8 or 10, And again, now all we're doing is increasing that time under tension, and that's just going to give our body the progression it needs from an eccentric training stimulus in the body. I don't start there with beginners because it's too hard to keep the technical form for that long for most people. So we'll start at 2-3 seconds, and then we'll go into longer than that to give more variety. And again, it'll stimulate more progress and more autophagy in the body. I'd add in sort of specific intensity training if I was an advanced client. So like it's more like deliberate and specific training for my workout, for my sets within that workout. So it might be things like if I've got 3 or 4 sets, I might put a percentage of how intense I want each set to be so that I can get the desired stimulus in each set. I might work backwards from this. I want 90% of, what I think I can lift, or a 9 out of 10 exertion on my last set, going almost to failure with good form. Set 3 might be 80, 75. Set 2 might only be 70. Set number 1 might be my warm-up around 50 or 60, just getting some stimulus through the body, waking up the nervous system, increasing blood flow. Now I'm getting really specific with my training, and I can warm the body up, warm the nervous system up, and actually deliberately get the stimulus I want in that 3rd or 4th set done safely, and I'm being really specific about it. You might even actually, now that you've got foundations in this phase, you'd have good posture, you'd have good stability, your body would be flexible and mobile, you'd have really good confidence in how you move, and you'd understand training and methodology quite well. You might actually just do some heavy strength training and just use 80 to 90% of whatever your 1 rep max is to also get the stimulation that we're after. This will help with neuromuscular activation. It'll sort of promote a lot of turnover of old inefficient muscle fibers, really promote different muscle fibers that are in strength and speed. And this will really start to give different signaling to the body. I put it in really advanced training because most people just don't have the foundation to offset the potential risk that you get from heavier strength training. This is particularly where I'd put potentially something like a controlled HIIT training. I don't often give HIIT training to people, mainly because their foundations just aren't built yet. They're too stressed systemically, they don't have the joint support, their body doesn't activate very well, and it doesn't really do anything to improve posture. So I take it out of a lot of the early phases for people until they can prove to me that those things are done. But then once they are built, a lot like heavy strength training, there can be real benefit from HIIT training. Stimulating autophagy is just one of them. So this is kind of where I'd put it. And then if you really want to ramp it up, you might do something like an extended fasted training. So at the end of a day, if you're doing any fasting, again, we put it in really advanced nutrition. You can actually start to train in that fasted state, which again, just boosts that autophagy at a cellular level, which is really, really important. So that's the background on what we're thinking about when it comes to something like autophagy. It's going to help your body's internal cleaning process. It's going to help you get rid of a lot of damaged, unnecessary organelles and byproducts in your body that are just cluttering up your cells and leading to inflammation. And it's going to help stimulate the right pathways for a stronger, more resilient body that's going to help you live better. Jeffrey, and anyone else online, any questions?
One question, but I was just going to say that it's good understanding that time under tension, because I often say to you, like I ask you if my tempo's right. When you had me doing the single leg RDL with the kettlebell this week, you got me to slow that going down, right down, and
yes,
then come up. I like understanding the theory behind that, and I can be more confident that I'm, spot on with tempo and technique. But with mitochondria, can you improve mitochondrial function or even increase mitochondrial production with exercise? Is that true?
Yeah, you can. It's one of the real benefits of it. Like its utilization improves. How much energy it can actually produce and turn over also improves. The amount of byproducts on the back of all that is lower, and you improve the density in your in muscles, but mainly your skeletal if that's what you're working. So that's one of the key drivers. And then you get more mitochondria doing the same thing. So it's an exponentially beneficial pathway, which is really important. So if you look at a professional athlete, their efficiency and their density should be through the absolute roof because of that. When we're so that's it, and yeah, I think it's understated, and I don't know if many people know about it enough, but the mitochondria just play such a pivotal role in health quality. Not because it has it doesn't have its arms in every sort of system and everything that it does, but just the amount of things that require energy, and therefore by default it just helps significantly reduce a lot of the systemic stress and improve a lot of function in the body.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, it's a long time ago in my uni days, now undergrad days, but I remember in anatomy and physiology, the mitochondria being referred to as the powerhouse of the cell.
Yeah, yeah, it's unbelievable. Like it's one of the key drivers to deal with things like you know diabetes or insulin resistance before we get there, or just elevated blood sugar levels. If part of the reason they give you strength training will be to improve that mitochondrial efficiency, which you can get in some cardiovascular work as well. It's not specifically limited to strength training, but it's just a part of strength training. So I thought I'd throw it into today's segment.
Wait, did you say you're going to talk more about inflammation in another session?
Yeah, we'll go through all of the foundational pillars that I went through today,
Right.
just to give people a better understanding of, just to educate. Not every level up will be like this, which is a bit of a deep dive, a bit of an educational process, but I'm hoping people just get some takeaways from it because it just helps get people to understand health really, whether it's through cellular or biochemistry levels or just physiology. It doesn't really matter, but it means that now that when I give advice like slow your tempo down or something like that, people attach to like just a genuine reason as to why they should do it, and not just sort of throw the weight around and lift whatever, which I just see that as a big gap in just getting awareness and turning awareness into action, hopefully.